evening. I'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A motion, please, to approve the agenda. Isetta and Linda. Any additions? I think we do. Linda, you wanted to discuss Fort County Legislature. You wanted feedback on that?
We can do it then, or after.
Where's that?
It's at the end.
Okay, right. Okay. Then all in favor of approving the agenda? Motion is carried. Our presentation from SWBR and campus construction, please.
Yeah, they are.
Oh.
So, good evening. Justin Buskey with campus. Pleased to present our monthly update to the board. So for a quick update on progress at the middle school, things are moving along very well. The interior's taking shape real well. Second floor is seeing taping and finishing, which is then going to allow some painting and the start of ceilings, which is great news. First floor is short ways behind that. We've had a ton of mechanical rough-ins. Black room recently had its slab poured, which are some photos in the report that I've presented. And things are moving along there as well. Recently, just as an update, we've had a conformed set of documents issued, which is you're all familiar with the redesign set. The conformed set encompasses the redesign as well as some clarifications up through essentially now this point. So from reviewing that conformed set, some issues have been identified, some things that were not a part of the redesign that are reflected, going against the contingency, but still within range of being able to finish. We're sorting through those issues right now. From a view on schedule, we still are on schedule to deliver the building for the start of the next school year. So we're on track there.
Nothing to add, just if you all have any questions in the public tonight.
You mentioned the first and second floor. What's the third floor like right now?
So the third floor has had, and there's a photo of that in there as well, there's a poly layer that's been put up just below the deck for the roofing. So that has kind of more or less frozen that in time at the moment. And I guess just a note on the roof, obviously our weather has turned. We're working through some strategies with the roofer to get the roof watertight, and then he can drop back when weather allows to pick up his detailing. But as far as that goes, with that poly barrier that we can't penetrate due to the hot deck, that's slow things down up there. But we're looking at strategies of things that we can still do up there as well. But things are progressing.
Does this progress report take into consideration the changes that have been made? Has it been updated to remove things that we aren't getting?
It does. There's
Okay.
a reflection of that, yes.
No new hurdles?
Just the weather. I wish it was 80 degrees where that gentleman's at.
Anyone else? All right.
So actually, when you're talking about the roofing, so when you're talking about the roofing, then it's the cold weather conditions that will slow it down, and that's not...
Yeah, we're looking at some alternatives with that. There's some different methods of fastening. There's some things that can be done. There's a number of things that we're working through, some strategies with the roofer right now. So to continue the process and get the building watertight, not that it is right now, but at least to the point that we can take the top wrap down and then fully get back up on the third floor.
What is the roof deck made of, going to be?
It's a metal deck, and
It's metal.
over the majority, there's a couple areas that are concrete, but the majority is metal.
What is tough wrap?
Top wrap is a layer of reinforced polyethylene that they've draped essentially below the roof deck and below the mechanicals, so that when they're doing the abatement above, if something were to fall, it would fall into that layer, and then it gets treated that way and not infiltrate inside.
Okay.
Okay.
So basically that would protect the work that's already been done in case the roof leaks.
That too, yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much. Anything else from you? No? All right. Thank you very much. Paul, are you hearing okay?
Yes, thank you.
Good. It's public access to the board. No one has signed up, so we will move on to reports. Beginning with the principals and Melissa for the elementary school.
I'm gonna walk up.
Maybe it's off. I
I think it just turned green on Friday. I was just going to point out the one area I didn't elaborate much on, but I think that has had quite a big impact on our school, is the very first item about foundations. Foundations is the phonics program that we're utilizing right now with K and 1. We also have purchased equipment for second grade. We're planning to roll that up with the students next year as they've been exposed to this since kindergarten. The foundations system is explicit phonics instruction and is filling the gap that we saw consistently in our data with letter sound understanding. So it's really that foundational building block that typically students in the past have come to school knowing, and we really saw that as an ongoing and expanding gap with our students. So this coach has come twice already. The first time she came, she did the lead teacher role, so she taught, the classroom teachers watched her teach the lesson with their students, and this last time they did a co-teaching model, and next time our teachers will teach and she'll give them direct feedback. And so the teachers have been amazingly vulnerable and willing to participate, and it's been really cool to watch. And I love that example that they're setting for the kids too, that they're in that growth mindset. And the feedback has been generally really helpful as far as the coach. She's a third party. She talks a different way than we talk. She knows the program inside and out. And she also knows the hurdles that the program presents to teachers typically. And so she's given us some great suggestions about how to make it work during our school day with our kids. And so that's been a really great experience. So I just wanted to share that a little bit more. Kind of hides in the folds of a regular school day. Any questions about my report?
I just wanted to give you a little accolade on all the recognition programs that you have going on, because I think that's important for students to see successes and be recognized for them. So there's a ton of them.
Thanks. We're working hard on it. One of the main takeaways I had at a recent conference at the beginning of the year was just the emphasis on teaching resilience for students and that understanding their success and seeing success in others, building that resilience factor, having it be really explicit and obvious. And I also think that, none of us, we all like a good pat on the back. So it's been fun to be able to share those kind words with our staff that they're saying about each other too.
I think that recognition program probably has some effect. My daughter comes home every day and gets on Prodigy because she wants to be number one. So I was telling Megan,
Highly motivating.
whoever came up with that Prodigy program and brought it into our school, you get a gold star. I mean,
And it's connected to the standards in such a fun way, too. It's really great.
so thank you.
Thanks. Did you have a question?
I went to a Cubby assembly, and I talked to you about this at the time. The use of the smartboard with the music and the interaction with the kids was very valuable. It was peppier, it was just welcoming and warming, and the parents all had a good time involving themselves in it. I also liked, it's on Facebook, all the pictures are from North Rose-Wolcott Elementary with kids and with parent, teachers and doing stuff, if you will. It's constant, it's great. I always press I like it because it is good. Also, the math workshops that you had sounded really good with the consultant.
Yes, Postings, yes.
Yeah, it was very valuable with regards to curriculum and also looking at the test scores. I think that's important, having a consultant, an outside person coming in and saying, this is what curriculum is and what it should be testing and what the numbers mean, especially in math.
Yes, he brings a solid regional understanding as well. That's difficult for us to have a grasp on both in the classroom and for myself coming from a different region. So he can compare us to regional schools and talk about strengths and weaknesses in other programs in a way that all of us cannot. So his multi-year relationship with the district has also built a foundation of trust with the teachers, where I feel that he can kind of push them to address some things that might need to be challenged, but also can support where he sees greatness. So he's a real asset to the program for sure. So we really value that time with Andy. And I know he works K-12 too,
It's good use of BOCE's resources.
definitely.
Linda? I just wanted to also say, Jason has already spoken to it, but your student and staff shout-outs and positivity calls are really a great thing.
Thanks.
For both the students and staff members to get recognition of the positives.
Thank you. A lot of good ideas from a lot of different pockets coming together, and I think raising all of our feelings about being at school. So that's the goal.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to the middle school. Mark?
Good evening, everyone. From my report, you can see an example of what we're trying to do to build literacy skills across the content areas. We assigned an on-demand writing prompt. We have students to respond to the writing prompt, and then we get together as teams and we look at the outcomes. And as a team, we look for strengths and gaps in our students, and we come to agreement on how we're going to be teaching specific literacy skills. That's teacher-driven. It's an effort on our part to really build our capacity to use student data and to try interventions at Tier 1 so that our Tier 2 interventions can be more effective. Does anybody have any questions in regard to my report this month?
I don't have any questions. I just want to give you a pat on the back for the reduction in referrals. Being almost 50% less than last year, somebody's doing a good job, and I appreciate it. It's got to free up a lot of time for you to do what you can to help students learn rather than just discipline. And the just for fun thing was kind of cool too with the egg drop.
Yeah.
Whose idea was that?
The sixth grade teachers do that.
Oh, really?
And I went out and I was taking pictures, and it was amazing. Trying to put bags together, like parachutes. Another student used diapers. They packaged it up in diapers, and surprisingly, there weren't many that broke. I was surprised.
Probably hard-boiled.
That's nice.
I just wanted to comment on when you were discussing how you're targeting specific things that might need to be addressed for students and really fine-tuning that. I think that's a great way to show more accelerated improvement.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Paul
has a question.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Paul.
Sorry, Paul.
I want to echo Jason's comments, and also for the elementary school, the referral rates are just like 50%, so just wanted to say well done and keep charging.
Thank you, sir.
All right. And the high school, Brian?
Good evening, everyone. So at the high school, we just finished our first round of quarterly data assemblies with our grade levels, where we review attendance and behavior and coursework data, and we celebrate student successes and we set goals for the future. So we've got that done and going again this year, which is great. And we've got a busy week with our college and career night on Wednesday, tomorrow, and we've got our concert and our art opening on Thursday.
John?
I saw the website thing on the advertisement for the career day and college day. I thought it was really well done. The different speakers that are coming in cover everything that a high school student should know and their parents should know about finances, how to select them, college and whatever. And I also would like to say I appreciate your reports throughout the time you've been here, so, and good luck to you.
Yeah, Gina put together the flyer for that event, and our counselors have worked to secure speakers from all different areas, so that there's really something for every student and every family at every grade level.
Brian, before you pass that mic on to someone else, the board really wants to thank you for your time here and all the work and the effort and the caring and the love you put into this. North Rose-Wolcott High School kids are blessed for you having been here and for your work. And as much as we hate to see you go, we do wish you well. And I know I personally am going to be watching your career, because I think in the years to come, we'll see great things from you.
I appreciate that very much. I appreciate the opportunity from the board to serve this great district. I've worked with a lot of great staff members and students, and I feel very privileged for the opportunity. So I very much appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now we move on to the Director of Special Ed, Pupil Services, Kelly.
So just a couple of other things I didn't include in my report that's coming up. December 18th, I'm attending a teleconference on manifestations that'll support our compliance assurance plan in that area. And then on December 19th, I have arranged with the psychologist, counselors, and social worker a meeting with myself and the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities, and we're going to talk about how do we get support for students, outside agency support, and how do we access those for our students who are struggling still. Questions?
Just a comment on all the links that you listed for information for articles. Haven't read them all yet. They will think they're going to be there.
That's okay.
I looked at two of them, and I thought they were very, very well done, the links were, and they were common sense, but they put them together in a way that if I were a teacher, it would make sense in the classroom to try.
Yeah, my goal with that was to really give them something that they could go back after we met for that half hour and implement something. And then next month when we meet, we'll talk about what they implemented and how it worked and share it out together so we can get different ideas from each other.
That's important too. Thank you.
And one comment I want to make. I was really happy to see you looking at the persistent behaviors that are impacting their learning and the learning of others. So many times the focus is on their learning, but not on what happens to the others. And I'm glad to see that that's all part of the package.
Thanks.
Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
Director of Health, Phys Ed, Athletics, Robin.
Good evening. In my report this month, I wanted to highlight some very positive data for our attendance teams throughout the district. Each building is up in attendance percentages from December of this time last year in 2018. So I provided that data to you in a chart and the interventions and things that we're doing. And then also some important data is for the fall athletic teams. 3 out of the 6 teams met the New York State high school standards for being a scholar athlete team. And 36 of our 82 high school varsity athletes all are scholar athletes, which they'll receive an acknowledgement pin as well from the association. And that means that those athletes had a 90% GPA or higher. So 32 of our varsity athletes had a 90 or higher. And then lastly, we have 15 more athletes this winter than we did last year. So that's an increase of 15 students. We're up to 120 winter athletes. And all teams are competing at this point in their seasons, and all is going well. Any questions?
I don't have a question, but I think it's great that we have 120 students in our size district where there are other districts that can't field teams. And it says something about our coaches and the backing that our district gives to kids. And she's not here today, but I think I could mention her name. Kennedy Jones was a top scholar in the volleyball. She was a top scholar. I mean, she only got 99% for GPA. And I did go to a NRW/Newark swim meet, and Mrs. Kelly Cole was the coach, and she did a great job with the kids. They were all excited, as most middle school kids always are, but they were very excited, and I had a grandson swimming against them, but it was really fun, really fun. A little bit warm, but fun. Thank you for your job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wasn't the volleyball team also recognized for a sportsmanship award?
Yeah, so I was going to mention that in my report next month, and the coach right now is on leave. So yeah, no, it's okay. The coach is on leave right now, so I want to wait till he comes back so he can be a part of the amazing news. And so there is great news to come. I'm just waiting to spread that out. Thanks.
An anticipatory set there.
Good evening. On Saturday, we'll be hosting our second Community Schools Super Saturday event. We've rebranded them from Lift Super Saturdays in our attempts to make them more community-oriented. So, for example, we will be opening up our Cougar Cupboard so that people can come in and access our food cupboard. We also will be providing some cold weather clothing for free for anyone who needs that. Other things that we're looking to do in the future are providing flu shots. Unfortunately, we aren't able to do that this year because in order to do that, you have to get on the public health list a year in advance, but we are on for the fall for next year. And we're right now working with the Wayne Technical and Career Center with their cosmetology department and talking to them about getting haircuts done and having their students, who are some of our students, coming in and doing haircuts and also providing spa services, so things like pedicures and manicures, things like that. So coming in and having those types of resources available for our students and our families and community members. So really bringing in resources from the community for our community and our students. So bringing that focus into what does community school mean, and bringing those resources in on our Super Saturdays. Any questions?
You hit on the two things that I had on here with the flu shots and the parent university. And I think that's, when I read that, it was kind of refreshing to hear that, why didn't we think about this before? I mean, it's going to bridge the gap between the community and the school and just get them more involved and more comfortable in coming. And I think it's great. I just can't wait to see what the results are.
This actually came up. I went to a conference in Buffalo, at the Buffalo City School District in October, and they do this.
Paul, what's going on?
They do this on a weekly basis, on every Saturday, where they bring in different community-based organizations to do these types of things, and they have different workshops for students, and while the students are doing, their fun, different activities, they're doing these things, they have the parents there, so they're taking advantage of that time. And so I was there, it was like, we have this opportunity, we already have this in place by doing our Super Saturdays that Lyft has started, so it's kind of like, the light bulb went off. We're 50% of the way there, so let's take this and run with it.
That's awesome.
And you were a co-presenter and what institute was that you presented at?
So it was for every fall and spring for the 21st Century Grant. Anyone who receives that grant were required to present, or were required to attend the conference in the fall and the spring. And I was asked to present on the MTSS process and the 21st century and how those two things go together. And it's interesting, we are in this region very much ahead of the rest of the state in both of those two things. MTSS, 21st century, and community schools, especially rural community schools. Most community schools you see are in urban districts. So it was very much, again, a light bulb moment for a lot of schools to see how can you make community schools work in rural districts.
Well, we're very proud of you.
It was a great opportunity to be a part of that.
Thank you.
Is there anything in there about transportation for families that don't have transportation? Is that something anybody's discussed?
We did actually talk about that, and that's something that we're going to look at in the future to see, what would the cost be for that, and how would we sign up, how would we sign up students for that? What would that look like for parents? Right now, we do allow students from other schools to come, but they have to be brought by their parents. So that's, as we move forward, we just keep brainstorming other ideas. How can we make this bigger and better?
Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. And Kennedy is not here. She's, pardon?
Cheerleading practice.
Cheerleading practice. Busy girl with a high average. At this time, well, yeah, shall we move on to, shall we do good news? Yes. All right, I'll follow the agenda. Good news, board members. John, you're always prepared.
Oh, I have some clippings. Paul wasn't here, so. In the Lakeshore News, we have North Rose-Wolcott choir member is selected for a senior high area All-State. A nice picture, and it was also in the Finger Lakes Times, I believe. We also have a little article on, let's see, what was this? Oh, the superintendent's, Wayne Finger Lakes Superintendent Award Program. There was Lauren Bullard of North Rose-Wolcott was selected as our winner. A nice article on the Cougars picking the Indians for the wrestling team. And the picture they chose was obviously for Waterloo, but not our kid. It looked like our kid was being pinned, but he wasn't. Our wrestler. Also, there is Section 5 basketball. There was a possible an all-star preseason in Quentin Norris from North Rose-Wolcott as in the forwards, in the position forwards. So they had a lookout for him to watch in the season.
Thank
There you
you.
go.
Thank you, John. Anyone else? All right, Megan. Megan has a presentation that she would like to make. Thank you, Megan.
Yes. So this month, the board would like to recognize our Cougar Pride parent group. The Cougar Pride parents do so much for the school, the teachers, but most importantly, the students, and they do it very quietly and very humbly. But lately, some of the work that they've been doing has been showcased on the Facebook page and really getting people to understand how hard you are working for our students. So thank you so much for that. The board would really like to recognize the work that you put in. And I'm just going to say each person's name aloud, and if you're here, please stand up so everybody can see you. So we have Samantha Gardner. She's the coordinator, and if you come to elementary school, you see her here in the hallways as people are arriving and leaving, and she does a nice job getting everything put together. Leah Bundy's the secretary. Heidi Barnes is the treasurer. Sarah Pickering, Star Teeter, Rachel Weber, Bobby Jo Mendenhall, Jennifer Bundy, Allison Dank, Shelley Mastrangelo, Colby Eaton, Tara Ludlam, and Heather Dennis. You see you in the back, Heather. Thank you so much for all your help.
Thank you for being here and for letting us know that you parents are so involved, or grandparents in some cases, are so involved, and it makes a world of difference for everyone. Thank you so much. We're going to take a 5-minute break at this time, so that people who need to leave may, and you're welcome to stay if you'd like, but we'll take a 5-minute break at this time. All right, thank you. I will call the meeting back to order. And we will continue with reports. Megan, would you like to go next?
Sure. So I just wanted to add that I put in my report that I have the literacy leaders group that's visiting different districts to find out about different literacy programs, because we're trying to improve ours here. And we did just have a visit at SOIS yesterday to see what they're doing because our group was interested in the program that they're using. So I feel like every visit that we're going to, we're getting a little bit closer to knowing what we like and what we don't like in a program. And we're going to be doing another visit at Newark after break. And my hope is by the middle of January, we'll come back together as a group and look at all the different options that we have observed and heard about and compare it to what we want in a program and have a recommendation by budget time for what we think would be best for our students.
Would that be through a BOCES consortium with Mid-Lakes and Newark and Windsor? Or is it we stand on our own?
So each district decides as far as their programs for their curriculum, what they want to use. But we are looking at what Williamson and Newark are using. They're using similar programs. They're seeing great success and they have similar students to ours. So that's one thing that we are looking at as different districts within our region and if they're having success or not with what they're using.
I am continually astounded at the amount of training and work teachers are doing to make improvements for kids. It's really phenomenal. And it shows a lot of caring and intensity of wanting to educate kids well.
And I think the board for the financial support to send them to those programs. A lot of them are through BOCES. And then there are some outside, conferences that we do send people to. We try to make sure that it's all aligned to the strategic action plan to make sure we're heading in the right direction. But having the teachers be lifelong learners is a great model to the students as well.
Anyone?
The statement that you made on focusing on getting teachers into other teachers' classrooms to see what they're doing differently, I think that's great. I think a lot of times in life we get stuck in a routine and we forget about the things that we know. And I think that'll have good effects. It just gives them the opportunity to get that light bulb to go off and say, oh, yeah, they're doing this and that.
Okay, thank you, Megan. Bob?
Well, budget season has begun, and one of the items that was on the budget calendar for actually November that we needed to move to tonight was looking at 5-year financial projections. So at your seat, you should have a portrait style sheet as well as a landscape with a color code that will help us go through this. So I believe most of you have seen this before. We've been doing this for about 5 years now, where we kind of take a snapshot of where we are at the time, and we project out what the next 5 years potentially could look like, kind of as status quo. So one of the important things to remember this is not a budget we are adopting for the next 5 years or anything like that. It's just to give us a concept of trends and what the long-term impact can be one way or another. So I'm going to spend just a couple minutes talking you through a few areas highlighting. So the first column of numbers is 2020. That is our current year budget. So the top half shows the revenues, and the bottom half shows the expenses. And if you go to the very last number in the bottom of the 2020 column, in red there is a 0. And that's the difference between revenues and expenditures. As you know, when we built our budget for this year, we had to build a balanced budget. So our revenues that we were projecting for this year and our expenditures we were projecting needed to balance out the same at $31,419,189. So that's our baseline that we're starting. Then I have to make some assumptions or estimates as to what potentially could happen for the next 4 years and carry those across. So we start right at the top with the revenues. Highlighted in yellow are our real property taxes, our tax levy, and our pilots. Whatever we increase a levy percentage-wise, that roughly is going to have the same impact on our pilot. So what I have done here, and if you look at your color-coded code sheet, It tells you that I've used, if we were to stay with a 1.9% increase in the levy across each year, that's what the revenue would be in those years for taxes. Moving down to green, state aid. Now this is, it doesn't include a couple of the categorical aids, but it does include our foundation aid, our BOCES aid, our special education aid. And whereas we projected $15.2 million for revenue this year, I've taken that out the next couple of years, and what state aid increases we will see are truly unknown. But I've used an increase of 1.5%. I think this, some of the years recently we've had maybe about 1.7 or so. So again, this is an estimate. We redo this every year. Building aid, those are numbers that I've obtained from our fiscal advisor according to our projects that we've done in the past, as well as what we're looking to do going forward. Again, a lot of that is still a little bit unknown because we are in the middle of the project. And if you notice, there's actually a dip from this year to next year. One of the reasons is we actually have an old 2005 project where the aid is finished up this year. That was about $150,000. And one of the other reasons that projecting going forward we're a little bit lower has to do with some of the issues we're dealing with currently in the current project. Whereas you know that we've used our maximum cost allowance at the middle school. So some work that maybe we wanted to schedule here won't be quite as aidable at the middle school. However, if you do, when we get down to the bottom and look at our debt service, we still will be in a positive cash flow. We will have more building aid coming in every year than what our debt service is. So that's important to keep in mind. Transportation aid, I just kind of left that flat. That is a cost, according to what we spend, is what we get back in aid. There potentially could be some slight increases as we pay more for salaries that may generate some more aid. But at the same time, as we get more efficient and maybe have fewer runs or something like that, that would be fewer expenditures. So I've left that flat. Federal aid is our reimbursement for the portion of Medicaid. That's usually pretty consistent from year to year. And our interfund transfers, this is where we rely on certain reserves every year as part of our funding and use of reserve policy. And the three reserves that we use every single year are the unemployment reserve. We usually, whatever we budget and spend is what we'll take out of the unemployment reserve. The EVLAR is what we use to pay for sick day buyouts when there's retirement incentives associated with them, etc. And our retirement contribution reserve, as you know, every year when we budget our retirement costs for the ERS system, we match the majority of that payment to this reserve. We have recently started with another reserve also for TRS, but I haven't factored that in as anything to tap into yet. So as you can see, those numbers are roughly the same going forward. Most of that is going to be the sales tax revenue we get from the county, as well as we finding ours getting some interest and earnings on money that we have in the bank. So that shows projected revenues for the next 5 years. Down below that is basically just going through the expense side. This is with current positions as we have now, taking the budget we have this year and rolling it forward with some assumptions of what we'll be looking at for salary increases by contract and projecting out. Healthcare, our consortium has been doing very well recently, whereas the trend for healthcare across the country has usually been 10% increase in premiums every year. We are down under 5% the last couple of years. A lot of this is being attributed to some of the wellness initiatives possibly that are taking place, where the consortium is putting money into wellness programs, and they feel that they're seeing benefits from that when it comes to the claims side. Debt service is tied simply to what we're projecting right now as far as when we'll issue bonds at the end. So again, at the bottom you have a total expenses that are projected. I just want to reemphasize, this is not next year's budget here under the 2021 column. This is just showing if we roll things forward. The adjustments reserves row in blue, that's just simply showing up above. Those numbers match to the orange up above. If we took $350,000 out of reserves, next year I've got to make that adjustment down below. That's money we've spent out of the reserves. And then the very bottom box is kind of a projection of where our fund balances could be each year. And you can see that most of them are going to be somewhere in the same neighborhood. The unassigned fund balance is the 4%. That will go up as the budget goes up each year, so that's why that goes up a little. Non-spendable, assigned, I've kind of kept those the same. And you can see that the reserves do change each year as we're spending them down and factoring in hopefully the potential that we don't spend everything we budgeted and we can put some back in. The very bottom row, revenue to expense or expenditure difference, that's simply comparing the revenue up top to the expenses. And as you can see in the 4 years going forward, just off estimates here, it actually shows expenditures higher than revenues. So as we go into this budget season, that's something to keep in mind, that unless we see some increased revenues, we want to look at areas in the expenditure side that we can tighten the belt a little bit to try to bring those in line, because if we're operating at a deficit, that means we're going to diminish our reserves at a more rapid pace. You know, there's a lot of data there, and generally the Board of Education officially approves this, and then we post it on our website, and that is a requirement from the comptroller. If we have a plan like this, we do have to post it. But I would like that to be on the January agenda for you, so you've got some time to process and look at this.
I have a question under expenses. Community services is listed. What does that entail?
Community services, there's a few things. Part of our SRO program is in there, not the full thing. Part of it goes into the instructional side. And it also is things like the golf range, the fitness center, the pool programs. All of those types of things are included in there.
Okay, thank you.
How's this 5-year plan look compared to last year's that was presented? I don't have, obviously, my copy.
It's still posted on the website.
Perfect.
That's a real tough question to answer. It's best thing to do is look
Side by side.
Yeah, because some things you'll see, oh, wow, looks like we're doing a little better here than we thought. Flip side on others.
Thank you.
And that's why we do redo it every year. Thank you.
Cindy, I had a question.
Sure. Paul?
Yeah, Bob, did you say that the number you used for state aid was 1.9?
1.5%.
Oh, okay, thank you. And then, well, what was it this year in 2019? Not the projection, but what did we actually receive percentage-wise?
What was
state
the
aid?
increase? I'll be honest, Paul, I'd have to pull that up.
Okay, no worries. It doesn't have any effect on what we're doing tonight, but I was just trying to remember myself.
I
Did you
think
it
our
was
bump
around
last,
3?
I believe our bump last year was a little bit better, not because of increases in foundation aid. We only saw a couple $100,000 increase in foundation aid, but we had some increased special education services and some increased BOCE services that drove our overall aid up a little bit. But we can't plan on those bumps every year.
Good, thank you.
Bob, with the decrease in the decrease in the overall fund balance in a 5-year projection, do you see any possibility of ever being able to build that up instead of a decrease?
Yeah, I do. So of course, whenever I prepare and do budgeting 101, I have to be conservative. So I have to plan for the worst case and hope for a better case. So I certainly hope that we see greater than a 1.5% increase in our rate. So that would help from that number depleting. I have budgeted in assuming that we're not going to spend every penny, that there will be some money left at the end that we can replenish some reserves. I'm very conservative with that number, so I certainly hope that will be larger going forward. But again, I have to prepare for the worst. I mean, I will say that generally most years, unless there's been a conscious plan to specifically take a large amount of money for a one-time expenditure, we generally are able to slowly take our fund balance up pretty much every year I've been here. There are times when, we decide that we're going to go out for a capital project and that will deplete a large amount. But we haven't really seen slippages from year to year.
Yeah, the comptroller and all of that makes it very difficult to increase fund balances easily. But we surely don't want to, 15 years from now, put the district in difficulty because they don't have any fund balance to work with. I think it's really important that we try to maintain a fund balance as much as we can.
Absolutely. And that's the purpose for an exercise like this, is not just as we go into budget season looking at, let's put together next year's budget. It's saying you've got to think farther out.
Thank you.
What's your vantage point with the county sales tax? Is that going to be consistently the same, I know? Or?
That's a great question. It seems to be secure for next year at least.
Okay. And how about federal funds? I read somewhere the federal people are thinking about reducing education aid, but I don't know. I don't mean necessarily aid to public schools. It could be who knows what.
Federal funds out there, which is what we get a lot of our grant programs from. So, the positive thing is we don't build the majority of our budget and programs on federal funds. We were able to take that money and supplement what we currently do. Granted, if we were to lose some of them, it would definitely have an impact on our kids and our community. But I haven't heard of any major changes coming up. Usually our title allocations get a little smaller every year, but like for example, our 21st Century program, we still got a few years left on that we're insured to do that funding.
Great.
I think with the county sales tax, the supervisors that have been on the county board of supervisors in the past years have questioned whether or not they need that money, rather than giving it to the schools. And this year, in 2020, there's going to be quite a big change in the supervisors. There's new ones coming in. Where they're going to stand, I don't think anybody knows at this point. You just have to kind of watch and see, I guess. That's totally unpredictable. Did you want to say anything, Bob, on these revenue details, or is that just a summary of what you've been saying? These are just...
Yeah, that was just showing us what each, kind of some of the numbers I talked about, assumptions for your reference.
Right.
And when we finally do finalize this, I'll take the color off, it'll just be the plan, but that was for our training purpose too.
Okay, I see. Okay, good. Anything else for Bob? Okay, then Steve?
Yep, I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has on my dashboard.
All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda then. Motion to for 5A through 5E15. 5E15 is on page 5. A motion to approve the consent agenda. Linda, Jason, second.
Before you approve the consent agenda, I sent you the substitute list in your board packet. I have 2 additional names to add to that list for your approval as well, just so you're aware. Catherine Graviton and Brianna Ruder-Sampson have been added to that substitute list.
Would you say those again, please?
Catherine Graviton,
Spell.
Gravbbatin,
Okay.
and Brianna Ruder, Reuter, Sampson. They are added to item B, 5B, the substitute teachers and substitute service personnel.
Okay. Anything else? All right, then all in favor of approving the consent agenda? Motion is carried with unanimous votes. And now we'll move on to number 6, policies. There are 2 policies on the list. The use of school facilities, materials, equipment, and drug and alcohol testing for school bus drivers. This is the second read, and this is the time now that we vote to approve. So a motion, please, to approve the policies. Izetta, Tina, second. Discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried, unanimous. And now we'll move on to information items. Linda has information to you on 4 county school boards.
You all received the information from the county, which included the state position papers and federal position papers. There was also an overview of the 4 county organizational statements and regulatory position statements. There also was a letter attached from Robin Johnson, who was our 4 county president. She had gotten some information from a downstate school district about a current possible law to be passed about requiring the vaccination for HPV to be one of the required immunizations for students to attend school. As you read through that, there was also a final page that listed all of the immunizations that are now in place, which involve highly contagious diseases. HPV is not a highly contagious disease, and so it's very contentious because there are a number of, at this point in time, it's a parental decision as to whether or not to vaccinate their children. So it could have an impact on school districts because some families may choose not to vaccinate and then their children would not be allowed in school. So some districts and school boards are taking that under discussion and deciding whether or not as a they would like to send a letter to state ed. That's something that maybe we can discuss, because the statement was made at the meeting that by hearing from 4 counties or county organizations, it doesn't have as much of an impact on state ed as letters from individual districts and school boards. So that's something that we can take into account in our decision making. So that's further information. Next Wednesday evening, the Legislative Council, which I'm a member of, we're going to be having a phone conference with one of the state ed directors for our, and be answering questions about how can we be more effective, and how can we contact state ed from 4 county with information rather than just going through regular process to be more effective, because we're one of the few 4 county regional groups that is more rural than urban. So some of the information that they receive from our particular 4 county carries a little bit more weight. So that's the, any questions?
Do any of you have comments about the legislative stand that 4 county is standing for? Anybody have comments? Did you disagree or agree with any of the federal or the state or the SED legislative resolutions?
Is 4 county in favor of the immunization?
I think, aren't we, we're supposed to tell Linda what we think, and you'll carry what we have to say back to them about that
But as
particular
an
issue.
As an individual board member, I'm 150% in favor of having that immunization for our young pre-teenagers. And it is contagious in a different way than the flu. But it is contagious. And it does have impact, possibly, when these young adults, our youngsters become young adults. So I am in favor of it because it's been proven to be effective.
John's in favor. Anyone else have an opinion?
I second John's statement.
I'm in favor as well.
Paul, do you have anything you want to add, one way or another?
Not really. I kind of have mixed emotions about it, but as a member of the board, I'll go along with whatever we decide.
Mm-hmm. I too have mixed emotions, but I don't have young kids either, so I understand.
Linda, where do you stand?
Pardon me?
When we were discussing it at the meeting, there seemed to be less of a strong support as versus the letter that had been sent by the district downstate. The thing that became more of an issue for a more weighted consideration was, is it going to be costly and are families going to be able to? But if it's a mandated vaccination, lots of times they're able to do clinics and so on. So it may not be as much of an issue as they thought. And I think that the major argument they were making about it being different than the other vaccinations was it wasn't spread by droplets or anything. You know, the germs don't stay potent for a period of time and so on. Once we get contact, but there isn't a period of time. So there's a lot of medical questions in terms of that. So that brought it to be a more complicated issue.
Paul?
I would like to ask Steve if you'd be willing to weigh in as a superintendent. What would your position be on the HPV vaccination?
To vaccinate require it. The law may change anyway so that the boards aren't going to have a choice. So if momentum gains with that, but for sure, I mean, I'd like to reduce the risk other kids would have to being exposed to anything.
Okay, thank you. That helps me, Cinda.
Good, thank you. All right, Linda, do you have?
I just want to say thank you because I need to take what we feel back and then other numbers on board too. So, thank you.
Okay, good, thank you. At this time, I'm sorry, thank you. Getting ahead of myself. At this time, I need a resolution to add green sheets to the additional items to the agenda first. A motion to add items to the agenda. John and Jason. Discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried.
Paul, are you in favor of adding the additions to the agenda?
Yeah, I'll be in favor of adding them. I may have to abstain if I can't read them or if we can't discuss them.
Okay.
Now a motion to approve the items listed on the agenda. John and Linda? There is a termination of employment for Betsy Barker.
Okay.
A program appointment of Irene Miller, and a letter of resignation from Tessa Nicholson.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Discussion? All in favor of approving? Motion is carried. Now I need a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of the Board of Education to discuss the employment history of a specific employee, a specific legal matter, and negotiations. Motion, please. John and Jason. Discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried.
Paul, were you in favor of going into executive session?
I guess I can be, but of course I can't join, so...
No, that's right. You won't be part of it. Hold on, though, because we'll be coming back into session afterwards.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to know.
Yes.
So, Tina, just send me a message for me to dial in or just dial me, please.
Okay, I'll send you a message to dial in.
She'll do that. She'll send you a message to call. He texted him and told him his battery died.
Okay. I can try to plug it in. You sure?
I don't think
It's
so.
gonna take forever.
We don't have a lot left.
Just this.
Just this.
I had that put in the whole time.
All right, I will call the meeting back to order. We are in open session again. First of all, we need a motion to put additional items on the agenda. Motion, please, to put these on. John and Izetta. All in favor? All right, motion carried. And now,
I did them each individually.
they need to be done, okay. A motion to appoint interim superintendent for North Rose-Wolcott Schools, the appointment of Dr. Vikma Ramos for the period of January 1, 2020 until February 2, 2020. Motion, please. Jason and Linda. Discussion. All in favor? Are you in favor? Motion is carried. Now, a motion, please, to appoint interim superintendent Scott Bishoping starting effective February 3, 2020 through June 30, 2020. Motion, please. Linda? Tina? Discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. And third, a motion, please, to appoint interim high school principal Sandra Jordan. Motion, John and Izetta. Discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. A motion to adjourn. Linda? Izetta? All in favor? You don't want to adjourn?
No, I want to hang out.
Motion is carried.